Hola guys, welcome back. Open everything. Episode 7, 8, 9. I don't really know. We're getting lost in good conversations. I got my buddy Dr. Life
Yo!
Bryant with us.
How's everybody?
He's a doctorate, right?
I am.
You have a few degrees. You teach.
I teach sociology, anthropology, ethnic studies, and psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got about 1,000 other creative projects in the mix.
Life is a universe. That's kind of way.
Dr. Life, you want to tell us how you got that?
Oh man, everybody asks me that question. It's interesting because they go first of the thing they say, were you born with that name? And I was like, nobody was born with the name. We were all given them. And so if that's the case, then Life is one of my real names, right? Because Life was given to me by a community of people, Burning Man community, which you are a part of. You know what's up. So when I first met the Arizona Burners is where I became a member of Burning Man. I've always had a thick network of people, and some people, try to use that network. So in the beginning, they were like, "Hey, dude, can you get me, this?" And they're talking about illicit things. Could you give me this and give me that? And eventually, I was like, "Nah, I'm not about facilitating addictions. I'm about facilitating life." And then there was a joke that went around, like, "Oh, they see me. They're like, you're the life guy. Where's the drug guy?" Right? Then we don't want the life guy. We want the drug guy. Yeah. And then it kind of stuck, right? And so they started calling me Life, the life guy, Life. And then I graduated with my PhD, and I was like, shucks, I need to use this. So I basically figured out an acronym that's connected to what my philosophy is, which is limitless ideas and free environments.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. That's the acronym, and that's what Life is. So I'm now Dr. Life, and that's an acronym for the universe that we're trying to put forth, limitless ideas and free environments, because we want people.
That's awesome.
To not, be so much in their head.
I've heard that story before, but just for you guys to validate the guest that I'm bringing on, and today we're going to do life lessons with Dr. Life.
Man, this is going to be good.
It's going to be good. It's going to be an awesome one. So my first idea was bringing up, some life lessons that maybe we should all consider. I don't know who these are written by. Maybe 70-year-olds, maybe 90-year-olds, maybe just some influencer on Instagram.
Yeah, that's probably what it's more like. Somebody they hired, some kid out of college that's sitting there going,
Action breeds more clarity than thought. So you can't think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into one.
Oh, wow. That's actually pretty good. I mean, that's kind of connected to limitless ideas and free environments, because thinking your way, and so cognitions, man, humans do three things. We act, motor skills, right? Motor actions. We emote, which is emotions and feelings, sensations. And we cognate, right, which are thought process. And all three of those interact and they affect each other. So, but cognitions are kind of like the largest now. I mean, we've kind of bred ourselves out of sensations like feeling like animals, like a lions and stuff. But now we are so driven by our thought processes.
Yeah.
And so trying to think our way out of something is what we basically do. We basically create narratives in our heads about what this situation is going to be. Like if I'm attracted to somebody, a lot of people are like this. I'm attracted to somebody. You go through all these narratives in your head about what do they think about you, or if I do this, they're going to do that,
yeah.
and all these things are just talking you out of actually doing, which is just going and saying, hey, would you like to go out with me?
Yeah.
Right, and that's where we get to like non-attachment and stuff like that. So you should just act sometimes and not be attached to what the outcome is, and then by doing that, you won't have to figure out narratives. You'll actually know the truth. Right.
So I've learned this in sales more so, but people, our subconscious brain is the emotional brain, and our conscious brain is the logical brain.
Okay.
So when you said people like to talk themselves out of certain things, we react emotionally. Ooh, that dress looks good on me. I don't wear dresses, but you know what I mean. Ooh, that shirt, that hat looks good on me, right? Like, and then we justify it through logical. Like, do we need that? Is that value worth, what it made me feel like?
Right.
And that, I don't know, it's an interesting perspective on what you were saying based on, we are naturally emotional beings.
Right.
But it could definitely affect our
Well, you're talking
cognitive
about
rationale.
the idea of logical validation versus actual active validation, right? If I think something's going to be the case, it's probably better to actually go and do something to determine whether there's a reaction that's going to be the case, rather than me trying to figure out logically the progression before I do it.
Yeah.
It just...
all of those thoughts are hypothetical because you're not acting on
exactly.
it. You're preventing yourself. That's the limiting belief. That's the barrier of
hypotheticals.
Action itself.
Hypotheticals lead to, what is it when you what's that called?
Hyperventilate?
Hyperventilation, right?
Hypotheticals lead
to hyperventilation. Rather than actual acting leads to actual stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. See, this game is fun. Dr. Life, providing life lessons.
Nice.
Both of our hats, if you read it this way, I am somebody happy.
That's right.
It's good affirmation.
Be somebody happy. There we go.
It's a good affirmation for yourself, too. All right, so here's a life lesson number 2. Every second you spend comparing your life to someone else's is a second spent wasting yours.
Ooh.
So stop comparing and create your own definition of success instead.
That's a good one. We are, from birth, we are, I think, socialized to be comparing ourselves to people. If you've had any siblings, your parents are like, why can't you be like your big brother? Or why can't you be like your sister, right? When you are in school, right, from elementary school on or preschool
Popular
on,
kids versus...
Right, trying to, this person has this, why can't I have this, mom? So we're all kind of developing this sense of comparison. And we're socialized by all the institutions to
and hypersensitive to it now, especially with social media.
Right. And the issue with what I think what that brings up is by trying to develop an identity through comparison, you're not really allowing yourself to actually kind of blossom and be who you are. And I think discovery of the self is I'm not going to say more important. I'm going to say is coexistence with that comparison. I think that should be the case, that they coexist, because when I talk about social psych, which is what my PhD is in, and I talk to people about the social psychological cognitive spaces, we accept, reject, or integrate when we are cognitively building narratives, right? So by comparison, we can say, okay, I like that, or I don't like that, or the experience that I have with this is good, or it's bad for me, what have you, through the action of experience. And then I can accept it and say, nope, I don't want to do it again. Or I can, that's rejected, reject it and say, I don't want to do it again. Or I can accept it and say, wow, it actually has something of value to me that I then want to be a part of my identity. Or I can integrate it and say, there's a piece of it that might fit with this, and put those together. So I think comparison is necessary because it's socialization. That's what
competition. A little bit of that.
Well, competition is a part of socialization, right?
Right.
So, but specifically building your identity based on reference, because like reference group, and saying that I'm going to be Elvis, right?
Yeah.
is unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
Saying Elvis has qualities that I want to have as a part of my identity is good, and
I researched this a couple of years ago, but I think it's 22 or 23 human emotions in total, and I wanted to do a podcast on each of them
Each of
individually or comparing two together.
Mm-hmm.
And the first and only one I did, and I never uploaded it, was adoration versus admiration.
Admiration, right.
And how, again, admiration, you could admire someone such as a rock star or a pop star or something, or an actor, actress, but adoration is something deeper, where you like adore their qualities, their essence, their beauty, their whatever.
You see the being that they are, and you kind of don't want to possess that. Like, that's what admiration would be. You want to possess it and be that. But adoration is like you want that to continue always, and to be around it, and to get inspiration from it, because that's how much they touch you. That thing touches you.
But also adoration comes with negative connotations, such as jealousy, and so it goes deeper, because admire could be a little superficial, where it's like, oh, that's really cool. This this dancer on So You Think You Can Dance, hey, I got his moves, and then you don't think about it the next day.
Well,
but
first of all, I would disagree with you, or disagree with the notion that there's 23 different emotions.
Okay.
I only believe that there's one emotion, and those emotions are, and everything that we talk about is a gradient of that emotion, and that emotion is love. And so if we go from a continuum from pure love all the way to the absence of love, people might say the absence of love would be hate, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So adoration is somewhere, and admiration is somewhere along that continuum. And when you say that there's negative connotations, I would just say that it's might be an absence of particular qualities that were further towards the loving as admiration than adoration, which I think is closer to the loving.
Fair. I guess in the context of like an insecurity or a trigger, an emotional trigger, adoration has more susceptibility to that, as opposed to not a negative connotation.
No.
Right? We don't want to experience sadness or loneliness or betrayal, right? Like these emotions that we feel. But yeah, I love how the continuum based on love.
Yeah, because I think adoration is more like if you love something more, you don't want to lose it. So it's susceptible to those things you're talking about because of the idea of loss, losing it. While admiration, you can admire something, and if it's gone, it's not as
precisely
deep of a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, we just dissected that really well, and it's cool because I was waiting to use that. I didn't even know it was going to come up today. This is literally the next life lesson, piggybacking off of love.
Okay.
Designing a meaningful life you love is possible, but doing what you love won't make life any easier. It will just make you more disciplined and more enjoyable.
Oh, that's actually really good. It reminds me of a meme. See if I can. I just saw this meme the other day that said, quitting and going forward or going on are both choices, but both hurt. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm not saying this, but you get it. So you can either quit or you can move forward, but both of them are still going to hurt, right? right. Shucks.
#life.
Right there. #life. Doing what you love is not going to hurt.
Yeah.
It's still like passion. Like the passion I have for collaborative, collective work, and getting people to collectively and collaboratively own the things that they're doing in terms of the passions in their life is a passion for me, and it's as I'm doing it, it's going to hurt because it's not always going to be positive, or it's not always going to come out. I'm not always going to come out on top, but quitting that passion would be hurting as well, because I'm going to be somewhere in the middle of nowhere, some nowhere job, doing something that I'm not enjoying, thinking about the thing that I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, you would, and I think a lot of people would relate to this, is the idea of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So in terms of relationships or trying to find love,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I've called a couple of women out on that, where I feel like your guard is up here.
Right.
And in order for me to even understand what you want, or hypothetically everybody wants love and to be
Right.
desired, if you're withdrawing or you're withholding or not being vulnerable, you might never get what you
You're
want.
never right. If you never step out there
Yeah.
and allow yourself to, say your words, use your words like our parents, were little always said, to
Yeah.
actually express yourself, and because you're always guarded, because you're trying not to be hurt, right? There's that
Collaborative
hurt
and
thing.
collective.
Right. You're trying not to be hurt. You're never going to be able to determine. It's that action again, starting where we said, if you don't take that action, you're never going to be able to see what the reaction is. And so
Yeah.
vulnerability is a big part.
It's huge.
Yeah.
All right, life lesson number 4.
Uh-oh.
In an age of speed and acceleration, aim to slow down. When you live slow, you become more mindful and intentional about how to live life, and you begin to take care of your body, mind, and soul so that they can inevitably take care of you.
Whoa, that's a deep one. I mean, that's a lot of my training is traditional training. Spiritual journey was with Buddhism and Hinduism, and I've also grew up Christianity. So I'm really about finding the thread between all of them, and I think that is reflective of that thread. That's saying, like mindfulness is about calming your mind and being still, and allow everything around you to exist, and then you can experience it more rather than trying to engage everything all the time. Because if you're trying to gauge everything all the time, you're going to miss stuff.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think this is focusing on. Mindfulness is about freeing yourself from focusing on any specific thing and being able to kind of experience all those things. And then you can build a better life, because with that acceptance, rejection, and integration thing, you can actually know more.
I like that perception. I like that perception, because the way I was taking it is, if we are caught up in the past, we're not enjoying the present. If we're caught up in the future, which is undeterminable.
Okay.
So for me specifically, my past is full of a lot. Anybody's past, you can't change it.
No.
And the future is very overwhelming because it's unpredictable, and you can't really foreshadow the future. So slowing down means the present. Okay, how do you enjoy the present moment? Your breath, your meditation, you're enjoying every song, right? You're living minute by minute, second by second. That's what I felt like. You're
from the movie, from the Broadway show Rent. There is no future. There is no past. I live this moment as my last. Absolute perfect mantra to be saying to yourself, because the past is gone, right? And if I cognate on it, I'm just going to be creating narratives, right? The future is not here. If I cognate on it, I'm just going to be creating narratives that I can't validate, right? So live the moment as it is and experience what is.
Yeah, it's interesting, because especially when we talk about becoming successful in anything that we do, all of our creative ventures, whatever, that takes some purposeful planning. I'd like to hear your thoughts on manifestation based on looking into the future, creating the life by design that you want while also living in the present.
So that's a big question, because when you say that to people go, well, should I not plan for anything? No, I'm not saying you shouldn't be actively in the moment creating a framework of what you would like to see. But mindfulness is about non-attachment to what you'd like to see. So if I am, a good painting friend of mine, Eric Garbaggio Fluke, said to me one time, "I'm just painting," and I said, oh, you're not just painting. I mean, you're doing, and he's like, no, I'm actually not thinking about what the painting's going to end up like. I'm not thinking about what I did, moments ago with this color. I'm literally just picking up a color and making a stroke.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty powerful.
It is powerful. I can relate to that because most of 90% of my steps, I have actually no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
And I'm pretty convinced that nobody on earth
knows
what they're doing or what's going on at all.
Which is actually
but we're all
where
trying,
we should be.
which is
Right. We should have a vision of what we'd like to see, and a dream per se, if you wanted that big dream, whatever.
Yeah.
And then in the moment that we're doing, we should be stepping towards that dream. I mean, if there's a beautiful ocean over there, right, that in the future I want to be in, well, what do I have to do? I have to take a step towards that ocean in this moment and take another step.
Yeah.
And just that's planning.
I watched a what's it called on Netflix? Explained. It's called Explained.
Okay.
And then there's different topics. It's like cryptocurrency explained or
okay.
time explained. So anyway, I was watching Time, and it did this like little test with our brain where it's like we're actually always in the present moment.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
And then it rewound like 20 seconds. It's like, well, that's in the past, but at that point in time, it was the present moment. Right. And then it fast forwarded to something that we haven't seen yet. But at that time in the future, it will be the present moment. And that was pretty trippy.
So if we get really trippy,
yeah.
right, we have to understand that there's only one moment of existence, and all of these little moments that we're talking about are just incrementalizations of the same moment.
And it should be summarized down to living life with love.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. And understanding that all of the moments are just representations of gradients of that life. Right, love and life as well. Right.
All right, let's see this next one. You're a student of life for life. Your sole objective then is to keep learning, evolving, and expanding your mind.
Learning, evolving, and expanding your mind.
Dr. Life, I'm supposed to be a student of life. I always need to be learning and expanding my vocabulary.
Let's talk about like one of the things that I've been experiencing lately in education in terms of the idea of learning, objective learning, right? When I grew up, maybe probably you grew up too. We're not so far apart, but the objective of learning was to expand our knowledge base internally, so that we could actually grab from inside, experience, and do things. So learning was really about taking in information, processing that information, storing that information, and taking that information and applying it when it was necessary, when we knew, right, it was needed. These days, I find that students of life, or students, right, my students, don't seem to have that same understanding of learning. With newer technologies, the understanding of learning is that I need to know conceptually, at least, stop at the conceptual space and say that there's this concept, but I don't need to have it internally, the database. It doesn't need to be part of my internal database. I just need to know where to go and get it, which means that it's an external database, and I need to be able to build the ability to find, to catalog what's out there, which are very different processes.
Perspectives. Processes.
Very different processes. So if you're a student of life, right, and which means that something is going to come along, interactions happen, experiences happen, and we are never aware of what the next experience will be. If we don't have an internal database that we can actually pull from to use, and we are cut off from our external databases, what happens?
Chaos.
definitely less of ability to handle a situation. That's what I would argue.
The lack of love,
The-
external or internal.
right, external or internal. But if you're cut off from the database, right? If the database is not internal, and you never cut off from the internal database, unless you are unconscious.
Isn't that your soul?
Yeah, your soul or your ability to tap into, your consciousness, which I define as an awareness, the awareness of self and the self interacting with what isn't self, right? If you are totally unconscious, like people in comas, I don't think potentially are actually conscious all the time. You see, you hear I'm at. I'm like, so this is, if we're truly, reminding me that if we're truly students of life, that we need to be able to build and learn as much as possible about and through experience of life that we then hold on to and have in our internal database. So when life happens, we're able to handle it. If we don't have that internal database and the external databases are cut off, we don't have the capacities or the tools, materials that are necessary to handle situations.
Lesson number 6.
Ooh, we're on 6.
Stay curious, question everything, and if you want something, ask for it. Live with such an attitude, and you realize that when one door closes, another one will always open.
Yeah, I mean that seems to kind of what is the word? Tie up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Tie up and all the stuff we talk about, right? So
open to everything is the idea of curiosity and continuing to learn through life with open love.
Exactly.
And non-judgment.
All right, there we go. And understand that the past is gone and that the future is coming. The only way to do that is to build a plan for whatever you want. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Life lesson. That's funny. All right, then, so do you have a favorite number?
42.
42.
Yeah.
Okay, mine's 22.
Okay.
So we're going to read number 22 first.
Okay.
When you play the quick short game, you win small, but when you play the sequential long game and allow yourself the time to grow, you win big. So be impatient with your actions, but be patient with your results.
Yeah, that's good. I would agree with that.
Huh.
I feel like, you should not just not all actions. I think there are some actions that you should just willy-nilly. Jumping off of a cliff into a huge
frozen
lake.
creek.
You're in the frozen thing. I'm not trying to jump off of a cliff into a frozen creek. I'm not trying to jump off a cliff in anything because I can't swim very well. But if you can swim and you jump it off of a cliff, like that should be impulsive. That shouldn't be. You shouldn't think about it because it's that cognitive narrative. Because the more you think about it, the more you're gonna talk yourself out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
So those should be impulsive, but at the same time, when there's much more consequentialness to it, like if I'm a police officer and I'm interacting with a citizen, I shouldn't impulsively decide to beat them to a pulp because they didn't do something that I suggested.
Sure.
Right? So,
right.
So I should be a little bit more mindful and a little bit more thought.
They probably wouldn't be patient with their results. In
there
that
you
situation.
go. Right.
Yeah, I was laughing because that's a very broad and vague life lesson. I was wondering where we were going to go with that.
Yeah, it was broad and vague, but I think it's kind of.
We just rebuked life lessons. Take it with a grain of salt.
Telling you, yeah, you gotta be discerning when it comes to being, like that. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna do one more.
I don't think there's a 42 because
there's not a 42. There's only 35.
So 35 is how many from 42? Take away
7.
Okay, so there you go. So
we're gonna do number 7.
I think we did 7 already, did we?
I don't know.
No. All right. So do 7. Let's see. Mathematics.
Share your progress, not your goals, and you'll always be motivated.
Awesome. That's actually a really good one. Yeah, because if you focus on the reward of what you've received, and your progress is the reward of what you see. So, like we talked about earlier, don't be attached to the outcome, but once an outcome happens, you can actually be connected to it. It's something that you can value, right? So if you can constantly focus on sharing those things that are meaningful to you because that outcome has happened in a way that you are satisfied with, you're going to be feeling much better in life than if you are focused on the things that didn't happen, right? So a lot of people walk around all day talking about, darn, I didn't get this, or darn, this person treated me, in a way that I didn't want to be treated. I'm not saying those things aren't important, because it is to evaluate. But if you're sharing and you're talking to people, try to share the things that were wonderful and beautiful and happened on your journey to help you get to that ocean that you're trying to get to, rather than the whatever stick that stuck in your foot that stopped you from moving forward that moment. You know what I mean?
I do. I have a lot of goals, and usually it's like my idea of manifestation is putting it out there, like right to someone like you or anybody, to make myself accountable. So instead of sharing my progress as to what I'm doing, even season 2, episode 7, look at how much I've done. I have a goal. My goal is different than my progress.
Yes.
So
Goal and progress.
Sometimes I find myself sharing my goals because I'm unintentionally making you hold me accountable because I told you I was going to do this.
I mean, yeah. So a big part of manifestation is stating, using your words, stating your intention. Yeah. Right. So if you're using that your goals are, I intend to make this happen. I intend to relieve people who are homeless. I intend to help artists kind of become more self-empowered and to be able to be comfortable with their selves as artists. Like those things, it's
hard to unwire even the idea of like, I'm not making $1 million right now. I'm broke.
Yeah.
So
But that's focusing on the things you don't have, remember?
Sure. Isn't there a difference between broke and poor?
I think there's a difference between broke and poor. Right?
Yeah. So like, poor is a state of mind. Broke is, or maybe it's vice versa. I don't know if you can.
No, I think poor is. You're right. I think poor is a state of mind. Poor is that comparative state of mind. I'm not the Joneses. I don't have what the Joneses have, and I need to get what the Joneses have. I think. What's the other one? Poor and
broke.
Broke is just that you don't have the resources that you need to actually do the thing that you intend.
Yep.
Right. So I often intend things, but I'm often broke, and I can't get that intention fulfilled. But I still have the intention, right? If I'm poor, I'm like I'm not even focused on the intention anymore. I'm focused on what didn't happen.
I've totally believed that money is a figment of the imagination, or wealth, right? Yeah. Going back to like poor is a state of mind. I'm very rich and wealthy in my personal development and love, right? Yeah. That's subjective because I don't have all the millions of dollars that I ideally want to have, but I've done a lot of work in my broke phases of life where I've become humble, or I've learned what I've wanted to learn, or I've asked for help where I've needed help, and learning vulnerability, learning emotional intelligence, learning what are the things. 90% of the things that make me happy are free.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? Like reading in a hammock, or like doing some yoga, or doing some breath work, or hanging out with an old friend.
In life are somewhat free.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, breathing air, and if they're no longer free, that's a problem, and that's, call me a socialist if you want to, but
they haven't figured out how to charge us for sunlight.
Right, exactly. That's where I'm at. I'm kind of like, those things that are necessary should be free. I mean, air, water, clean water,
physiological needs.
Right. Those belonging. Right. No one should ever be able to control the rights of like your connectedness with other people.
We were talking about earlier how basically world hunger and getting the world on clean water would cost under $1 trillion.
The technologies are out there. It's just the power struggle and control over actually using the resources that we have to create those technologies. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely insane. Why do we, the people, right, allow those resources not to be used for the people's purposes? And yeah, I mean, like we're saying, why is there not turbines that are along the highways to generate energy? Why are not all windows required to be solar panels and contribute energy to a central power structure that is giving power to everyone? The technology's out there, people. Why are cars which have 4 turbines on them not actually generating power to a battery hello?
I haven't spoken this out into existence publicly, but I told L.I.F.E earlier, one of my biggest passions or goals in life is to have solar powered distillation machines in foreign countries or third world countries where they have to walk to get water, walk miles, but a distillation machine basically takes the humidity out of the air, which cools their environment while producing clean water. So a distillation machine is powered through solar power. If anybody out there wants to do this with me, or there's some kind of nonprofit or some kind of connection with this, it doesn't cost that much to give clean water to a community.
You're basically talking about a large swamp cooler that is pulling the moisture from the air to create the water that's
generated through solar energy.
A swamp cooling purification system that is being through that solar generator
to provide a reservoir of cold water.
All of the technology is there.
I just don't have necessarily right now the resources to do that.
The resources.
Or Leo DiCaprio, I know you're into that stuff. Let's collaborate and work together.
Right. All the artists out there who, I mean, collectively, all of us collectively, give this piece here, this piece there, until to our own collectively owned operations, so that we don't have to go to somebody else who wants to say, no, I have this technology over here that I want to keep going, because we're never going to, I mean, I hate to say it, but the idea of, changing things from within, I don't have that passion for anymore. I think we have to create the alternative and then let the other system die.
Yeah.
It's just plain and simple.
I don't know how long that'll take.
It's called evolution.
Yeah.
Evolve, people.
In the world of TikTokers and last generation. Anyway, I'm going to have him on every season.
All right.
Life lessons, Dr. Life.
Dude, it's so good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
We haven't hung out since, since
my 30th birthday?
Before the pandemic, yeah.
Yeah, it was before the pandemic.
We had a birthday party together right before the pandemic, and then boom.
No, it was the summer of the pandemic. Where we wanted to get out, and we threw a 25, 30-person party in Buena Vista out in the mountains, and we brought 2 DJs out and lights and
no one got sick. Amazing.
And bongos and
imagine that. No one.
We had a massage table out there. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Collective collaboration. Get you somewhere.
Stay in touch with this podcast, and we'll drop some crazy parties.
Yeah, sounds good. If you want to give them a follow, where do we find you?
Right now, you can find us at LTB Booking and Promotions, which is really good. That's one of the ventures of the 7 ventures in the conscious cooperative universe that we created. And it's a booking and promotions firm that's collectively operated and cooperatively owned by all of the artists.
Who would benefit by reaching out to
anyone who's into or who has a talent that they feel they want to get out there, be booked, and perform, and or if you want to just be involved with talent, and then if you have greater aspirations relative to collaboration and cooperative, we can move you up into the conscious universe.
Olay.
And
sounds
get you there.
Awesome.
There you go.
I've been there for years with them, and if you're looking to join, come on.
Yeah. I also have a podcast too.
Oh yeah.
So we need to.
How do we follow your podcast?
Life in Chaos podcast.
Life in Chaos
is on Apple as well, Apple and SoundCloud, and then we also have Life Lessons, which is kind of like workshops that we do. So this is good.
I messaged him out of nowhere, and I was like, "Life Lessons with Dr. Life," and
Let's
he already had a hashtag for it.
Hashtag Life Lessons.
Hashtag Life
Dr.
Lessons.
Life.
All right, guys.
All
Until
right.
next time. Appreciate you, man.
Peace. Love. Be good, y'all.